So today I actually have two different kinds of topics to talk about. The first one is that I want to finish off yesterday's video's topic of setting boundaries, and then I also want to talk about what I think is the new main challenge that I'm facing right now. I'm incredibly tired right now, so this will be a tough one. So I don't even know. Oh yeah, what I did want to talk about yesterday was the ability to set boundaries and what you have to do in order to set boundaries is essentially, first of all, I think that the ability to just say no to things is in and of itself a skill that you need a skill that you need to train and develop. But then also you want to build your life in a way where you can reasonably say no to more and more things. For example, let's imagine the same scenario with three different kinds of people. So let's say you are at work and your boss wants you to do something. Now that you know is not good for you. So let's just go with this bad explanation. And the first kind of person, a person that has no proper psychological boundaries, basically listens to his boss, thinks, this is actually a pretty stupid idea, and it is also pretty bad for me. I don't want to do this, but because this person is very bad at setting boundaries outside, that person still says, yeah, I'll do it. Then the second person, number two, that's someone who has good psychological boundaries. So essentially, when your boss says, do this and this, then your answer is, nope, that's bullshit, I won't do it. Because you have developed this skill of setting boundaries pretty well. However, what then happens is, your boss gets angry at you, and because of that, you don't get promoted for the next 5 years, and you suffer heavily financially from that. And so that's exactly the problem. There are some boundaries that you should set that you do not set because simply your skill in setting boundaries is too bad. But then there are also some boundaries that would be better for you to set, but that you can't set because of the repercussions, setting the real life repercussions setting that boundary would have. And then the third person is someone who is good at the skill of setting boundaries, but who has also fortified his life in some sense. And so the idea here is, if you're one, in this example with the boss asking you to do something, it's like if one, you have a good skill, you're good at the skill of saying no, but then also in the real life area, you also have invested part of your income every month for the last 10 years, and so you have, I don't know, several $100,000 stacked away in your investments, and then off top of, and then on top of that, you have built up your side hustle as well over the last 10 years. So you actually have a pretty solid second source of income. And then when your boss says, "Oh, I want you to do this," and you say, "Nope, I won't fucking do it," then one, you're using that skill of saying no to things in order to say that you won't do it. But then when the repercussions come in, you actually don't really give a big fuck about the repercussions, which in this example would be that you would make less money in your job, because you are already very well built up in the financial sense. And so this is a pretty interesting concept, I think, and I'm wondering how exactly I can use it in my life. And it also makes you think, like, it's like also one of the reasons why I think approaching your career only in the traditional sense is actually quite a big gamble, because I would argue that in order to be your most productive, in order to build the best career possible, you would want to be your most productive self at work, number one. And number two, you would want to build your self-esteem to the highest possible level. And so in order to do that, you need to be able to say no to a lot of the bullshit requests that you will probably get at work. But in order to properly be able to say no to those bullshit requests, well, you need to have this certain financial wall built up where the repercussions that saying no to people on the job can't really harm you that much. And especially at the beginning of your job, when you did not have a lot of time to save and invest money, which is something you definitely should do, then basically it's like, what I'm thinking is like, the best way to set yourself up to really become maximally successful in your job would be to start a side business. Now, you could of course also argue that you could also take just a second job parallel to that, and then you would also be more independent, because if someone at your first job says fuck you and fires you, you don't really care because you still have your second job. So I think that is would be quite a good strategy, other than like starting your own kind of business. But it's also pretty damn hard to have two parallel jobs, and arguably not something that is realistic for many people, and not something that many people want to do. Though I do remember a blog post from years ago about I think it was some moderator of a TV show in the US, and he was actually someone who always had two jobs and always invested all the money. Like, how do I properly formulate this? and he always invested all the money from the job that he made more money, more money from. And so I think if you don't want to go into business, then that would be quite a good way. I mean, on paper, before you actually have to fucking work 2 jobs parallel to each other, that would be quite a good strategy. Because what is on my mind a lot right now is that a lot of online business, at least, feels like it's some kind of closed bubble where really most people just teach you, or it's not maybe not only teach you, but it's like people only solve problems for each other that have to do with running your own online business, which is on some level is fine, because really the way the economy works is that it's just good for the economy when money moves around, and solving any kind of problem makes money move around. So that's like, on some level that's fine, but then also it doesn't seem super sustainable from my perspective. And so having this kind of different strategy that leaves all of the online, I honestly don't even want to call it online business world. That is so stupid. Let's call it side hustle. That leaves all the personal side hustles aside. That's quite a good thing to have in the back of my mind. Yeah. So really, the 2 ways that I could apply this kind of fortify yourself, fortify your life in order to be able to say no to more things at work, that is definitely just 1, saving and investing as much of my money as possible. 2, and this is the big problem here for me, managing the money that I save and invest properly, because right now there are some potential risks. One, in like the way I basically store my investments, because it basically all is tied to my phone, and it's the same phone that I basically take everywhere with me. And so that's like, from a long-term risk perspective, that is not a really smart move to tie or most of your personal finances, or like at least easy access to most of your personal finances to your phone. It's like, that's not so great. Yeah, then, so that's number 2, and then I don't even know what number 1 was. Let's do it again. So number 1 is save and invest as much money as possible. Number 2 is properly manage the money that I save and invest. And this is like, there's 2 sub-steps to this, which is properly managing my access to the money that I save and invest, and then basically properly how I manage properly how I invest that money, because right now what I'm doing, I'm putting 50% into the S&P 500 and 50% into the MSCI emerging markets. And it's like, that's not too bad, but it's also not too good, because I think, at least for me, the proper approach would be or the proper next steps to take would be 1, to do some kind of all-weather portfolio, which essentially means that instead of just investing in stocks, you invest some part of your portfolio, let's say like 50% you invest in stocks, 20% you invest in bonds, 20 I don't know, 10% you invest in real estate, 10% you invest in gold and commodities, and then 10% you invest in crypto. And then the idea would be that you want to keep this asset allocation always the same, and this allows you to automatically avoid, or it allows you to automatically buy less of assets that are overpriced at the moment and to buy more of assets that are underpriced at the moment. So for example, let's simplify the portfolio. If your portfolio is 80% stocks and 20% Bitcoin, and now you invest $1,000 every month into your portfolio, so you invest $800 into stocks every month and $200 into Bitcoin every month. Now that is already quite good because since you are investing every month, even when the price goes up or down over time, it's like basically even when the price goes down, you then kind of get an advantage from this, because while your previous investments suffer when the price goes down, you at least get a better entry price with the shares that you're buying with your investments in that month. That's not really a good explanation, but anyways, it was also not really the point. So the real example is you want to have 80% stocks, 20% Bitcoin, and you therefore invest $800 into stocks every month, and you invest $200 into Bitcoin every month. Now, if Bitcoin now massively dumps so let's say after the first month, you therefore have $800 in stocks and $200 in Bitcoin. And now, essentially, what happens is Bitcoin, as it does sometimes, dumps down 50%. So your $200 of Bitcoin are now only worth $100 of Bitcoin. And what this means is that essentially your asset allocation is now off, because you wanted to have an 80-20 distribution between stocks and Bitcoin. But since now you have $800 in stocks and $100 in Bitcoin, Bitcoin is less than 20%. And so what you then would do in regular intervals is you would look at the current asset allocation of your portfolio, and in this case you would see, oh, okay, I don't have enough Bitcoin, I need more Bitcoin. And so instead of investing $200 the next month into Bitcoin in order to get the asset allocation right again, you would, I don't fucking know what the proper numbers are, but you would now invest more money into Bitcoin the next month, let's say 400 euros or dollars, whatever. And so you would then invest $400 into Bitcoin, and what then might happen is Bitcoin then goes up 100% 3 months or maybe 3 years later, and you profit more from Bitcoin going from this rise in the Bitcoin price, because when Bitcoin was low, you automatically, without making a conscious decision, simply of the way the portfolio and the investment system works, you automatically bought more Bitcoin when the price was low. And this is like a pretty good system to set in place for your investments, I think. And so like this would be the first step for me, to think of a proper asset allocation and then a proper system in order to like reallocate how I invest my money every month based on the original allocation. That's step number 1 that I should take. And then step number 2 that I should take is that I get myself a few proper personal finance books, and then see if I can improve my the strategy that I already set in place based on those books. And yeah, that's that. So it's basically investing more money, or like the things, and again, to put this into perspective with the bigger picture again, is the things that I can do to fortify myself financially, so that I'm able to say no, so that I'm able to set better boundaries, would be to 1, save and invest more money each month, 2, improve the way I manage access to my accounts, 3, improve the way I actually invest the money through using the all-weather portfolio strategy, and then or implementing the all-weather portfolio strategy into my own portfolio, and then 2, by reading and improving my investment strategy through reading some good personal finance books. And then number 4 would be to try and get, or at least work on building a second income stream parallel to my main work. And really, I think when you look rationally at your life, not having or not working on building a second stream of income is incredibly stupid. Like, there are just so many advantages that come with it. And it also stacks so well with investing. Like, it's like you can see investing as kind of your second, what's the proper word? It's not level. Let's call it base. So it's like your second base to make money, because it's like you can say, okay, I have my job, and then I have my investments, and I get, I don't know, dividends from my investments. And so that's a different kind of income stream that is independent from my job that I have. But it just stacks so much better if instead you do, okay, I have one income stream, which is like my job. Then I have a second income stream, which is like a second job or my own personal side hustle. And then on top of that, you can also invest as much as your money as you can into a third income stream, which would be your investments. And then suddenly your financial situation is incredibly, incredibly strong. And again, not doing this is really quite stupid, I think. And this is, again, I talked in one of my earlier videos about me having massive gaps between realizing something and actually acting on this. And it's like, I have realized this exact concept with having 2 streams of income and then investing money on top of that. I have realized this easily 4 or 5 years ago, and I haven't taken any action on it. I mean, I am investing money since a few years, so that's like okay. But the real strength comes from having 2 income sources and then investing your money. And I knew it, and I knew it for years, and I haven't done it for years. And I'm not really doing it right now, to be really honest. Yeah, and so this is how you can basically increase your ability to, I mean, it's not really, yeah, let's call it increase your ability to set boundaries at work. And then on setting boundaries in like social situations, for example, another problem that I struggle a lot with is when friends ask me to come and do something, and I'm thinking like, that's not really something I want to do. But then again, I don't want to say no to my friends too often. And so I say yes, even though I'm kind of thinking so like, meh, that's not really the best use of my time. And this is a very simplified example. I think it goes way deeper than this. But the key idea here is that in for like just your general private social interactions, I think a step you can take to increase your ability to set boundaries is to have many different social circles. So I think instead of, I don't know, let's assume you go out every evening to, I don't know, have fun. And instead of going out with the exact same friend group every evening, it would be way better for, I think, in many ways for your life, but also for your ability to set boundaries. If instead you had 7 separate friend groups and you went out with them once per week every day, once per week, and then like you have 7 friend groups, so you would still go out once every day. And so then that makes it way easier to actually have integrity and stay true to yourself when there's social pressure, because even if you badly offend some people in that one friend group, if that is your only friend group, that's basically something you really don't want to, that's really something you don't ever want to do. But when you have 7 different friend groups, it's like, well, losing when one of them falls away, you don't really give a fuck because you have 6 more. And then if you properly understand this concept, then you also now have a free day, which you can then spend on building up a new 7th friend group. And so, I think that's another way to improve your ability to set boundaries. I can't really think of any other ways or any other areas of life where you can like fortify yourself in that way. And what's worse, I have no idea how to properly implement this in my own life right now. Because, and this is a very good connection, I think the main problems that I'm dealing with right now are much different and much less interesting. For one, I think my main problem right now is that I don't have a consistent sleep schedule. And what this comes down to is that I have massive problems to get out of bed in the morning when I set my alarm for a certain time. And like on some days it works. It's like I set the alarm for a certain time and I get out. But then other days I end up in this endless snooze cycle where the alarm goes off. I stop the alarm, set a new alarm for, I don't know, in 10, 20, 30 minutes and go back to bed, and then repeat this cycle 4, 5, 6 times every morning, and it fucks up my sleep, it fucks up my morning, it fucks up my entire day. I really, the truly few hours that I have in my day, I lose, and so it is a huge problem. And I don't really know, I'm not quite that sure how to properly solve it. I have my, how do I call this? I have my daily document which is basically a document with texts that I wrote to myself that I read daily. And so I added a sub-document to the daily document with like messages to myself, or with like thoughts that I want to think when getting up in order to push myself to actually stay up and not go back to bed when my alarm goes off. And then I think so I think like the overarching problem is like I need to have a proper sleep schedule where I really consistently get up and go to bed at the same time every day. And there are several problems that keep me from doing this. The first problem is, one, even when I set a good alarm, and I will come to what a good alarm means for me in a second, I often don't actually get up when the alarm goes off. Two, I often don't set a good alarm, which means that often it's like I went to bed, or I know I can only go to bed at 10, but I also want to get up very early in the next morning, and so I set my alarm very early. I don't get a lot of sleep, and then when the alarm actually goes off, I don't actually properly get out of bed because I know I didn't have enough sleep, and use that as an excuse. It's time for me to stop this video, but I think I will be talking about my ideas I have, because these are also ideas that I can properly implement into my life right now, and that I have to implement into my life right now, because this is the biggest problem that I have in my life right now. And so yeah, I will talk about this tomorrow. See you then.